not going to sit back and watch. Here's the thing. You can't listen to that anymore. They're going to say whatever they want to say, but that shouldn't stop you from speaking out about what you believe in. It's time to do the right thing and to speak boldly and not compromise about what you believe in. They're going to continue silencing you until you're backed into a corner and you won't say anything else. It becomes this almost like an eclipse where the truth is hidden behind it. And yes, the light Micky McCoy's wife just stepped out and spoke out loud. She didn't hold back one bit. She's exposing Erika Kirk, and even the supposed TPUSA chief of staff is caught up in this mess. Like, this is the kind of story that makes you put down your phone, grab a bag of popcorn because things are getting really messy. And before you think this is just a random bit of conflict, no, this goes much deeper. We're talking about alleged cover-ups, betrayals, and people using their positions to cover up some really disturbing shady behavior. Micky McCoy's wife basically said, enough is enough. And she decided to bring the whole truth out for the world to see. Told me it was something so instant that even if Charlie had been shot in the operating room itself, nothing could have been done because the whole thing, by all accounts, had started months ago and involved multiple people who were allegedly covering up for each other. And most importantly, no one expected this exposure to come at such a timely time. Erica Kirk thought she was in the safe zone. The chief of staff also believed that everything was kept under wraps. But Micky McCoy's wife said emphatically, "Not while I'm here." And she brought it all to light. And that's not all. We have details that almost no one else dares to talk about, things that happened behind closed doors and are now being revealed. Okay, before we get to the richest part, let me quickly review the people at the center of this story. Because if you don't know the characters, you're in for a real crash course. Micky McCoy is a young rising commentator who's starting to make a splash in the conservative commentariat space. He's building his own platform and drawing more and more attention for his candid views on current events. And his wife, who has largely stayed out of the spotlight, has clearly reached her limit. I didn't make him feel guilty for being away too long or too much or getting home too late. I always told him, home is here for you. Then there's Erika Kirk, a prominent figure in Turning Point USA who has established herself as a potential new face in the conservative world. She's appeared at many events, many shows, building a strong personal brand. But behind that polished image, according to her account, lies questionable behavior. And then there's TPU's chief of staff, who are supposed to keep things professional and transparent. Yet, based on the allegations, they allegedly sided with Erika, helping to cover up the mess rather than dealing with it head-on. A classic example of a conflict of interest. Now, here's what allegedly happened, and brace yourself, because things are about to get heated. According to Micky McCoy's wife, Erika Kirk allegedly engaged in behavior that went far beyond professional boundaries and far beyond the realm of friendly. And what's more, when the wife tried to address it discreetly and tactfully, things reportedly got worse. The wife said that instead of handling things calmly and respectfully, like an adult, Erika Kirk allegedly went the opposite direction, not taking responsibility, not admitting wrongdoing. She started playing the victim as if she was the one being treated unfairly. And this is where things exploded because, according to the story, the TPUSA chief of staff not only knew about this early on, but also allegedly sided with Erika. Instead of doing the right thing, they allegedly helped Erika spin the story, putting all the blame on the wife, making her look like she was overreacting. And when you take that stand, it will encourage and inspire someone else to do the same, whether that is someone in your circle, whether that's a family member, whether that's someone you never even met before because they saw you posting something on social media. Imagine the feeling. You find someone behaving inappropriately with your husband. You try to talk calmly, privately, but they team up with their superiors to make you the troublemaker, turn your concerns into a joke, make you look out of control. According to the story, that's exactly what happened. And honestly, no wonder Micky McCoy's wife finally decided to bring things up. Who can handle having their story turned around like that? But don't be so hasty because this story is much more complicated. According to his wife, this wasn't an isolated incident, not a one-off slip of the tongue, not a one-off misunderstanding. It was a pattern of behavior that had been going on for months. We're talking about a whole host of signs, inappropriate text messages showing up at events she wasn't invited to, and inserting herself into situations that had nothing to do with her job or responsibilities. What's more telling, apparently, many people in the same environment knew about these behaviors, but no one said anything. Why? Because of Erika's connection to TPUSA. because of her position, her image, and her ability to influence. According to the story, there was a culture where certain individuals were overprotected, and anything that caused inconvenience was swept under the rug. And then Micky McCoy's wife came forward with the evidence. Screenshots allegedly showing overly intimate text messages, verbal messages that crossed the line, and signs of familiarity that were not at all appropriate for a professional context. This evidence not only called into question the behavior, but also the environment that allowed it to go on for months without anyone speaking out. We're talking about messages that appear at completely unusual hours, the kind that would make anyone who sees them question them. Comments that go beyond the realm of professionalism, beyond what is considered courteous between colleagues, and according to the story, even have a nuanced tone that makes the person involved feel disregarded in their own marriage. And the most telling thing? When the wife tries to set boundaries, try to set the record straight. Erika is said to have run straight to the chief of staff, as if she's the one who's hurt, as if the wife's the one who's done something wrong. Now, we need to talk about the role of the chief of staff, because this is where things get really messy. Allegedly, when Micky McCoy's wife tried to resolve things the right way through internal channels, through responsible people, the chief of staff allegedly shut her down. Not only did she not listen, she was unusually protective of Erika. We're talking about people in positions of power allegedly advising the wife, just let it go. You're overreacting. They even reportedly tried to paint the wife as unreasonably jealous or emotionally insecure. Imagine that scenario. Music? You have real concerns. You see a line being crossed, but someone in a position of power lights you up, making you doubt your own feelings. That's exactly what allegedly happened. And here comes the biggest twist, one that Erika and her chief of staff probably never saw coming. Little did they know that Micky McCoy's wife kept everything, everything. Every text message, every email, every screenshot, every time the behavior crossed the line, she kept it all. Not because she wanted to find fault, but because she knew one day she would need the evidence to defend herself when things were reversed. And the moment she realized they were trying to hide, downplay, or spin the story in a way unfavorable to her, she decided to go public. No holds barred, no hesitation. The evidence presented as told by the online community was truly breathtaking. We're talking about conversations in which Erika allegedly admitted that she crossed a line but continued to do it anyway. Texts that showed inexplicable intimacy, statements that hinted at disrespect, and even details that showed Erika believed that her position in the organization would keep her out of trouble, which for a while it almost did because the chief of staff was supposed to be covering for her regardless of right or wrong. But Micky McCoy's wife had the evidence complete clear. And when that evidence came out in public, there was no way to spin the story. This was no longer rumor. This was no longer he said, she said. This was an entire chain of behavior documented line by line. The messages allegedly sent by Erika are not just tactless. According to the account, there are passages where she speaks of the wife in a disrespectful, dismissive tone, as if the other person's concerns were a joke. And that's just the surface. According to what was shared, there were also exchanges showing that the TPUSA chief of staff worked with Erika to discuss how to handle things in a nice way. And nice here means how to get the wife to withdraw, to be silent, to disappear from the story as gently as possible. That is, instead of solving the problem, they allegedly sought to eliminate the questioner, a familiar tactic in environments that prioritize against image over transparency. And then comes the wildest part of the whole story. In some of the messages allegedly from Erika, she allegedly admitted that she knew she was overstepping the mark, but still appeared confident that her connections with TPUSA would protect her from any trouble. Like an invisible shield, a visual protection group, Erika, according to the account, believed, as long as I'm with the organization, no one dares touch me. And for a while that seemed true because the chief of staff, according to the allegations, was always there to support, always defend, always spin the story in her favor, regardless of what was actually going on. But this is where the story takes a turn. The wife doesn't just have evidence of behavior directed toward her husband. She also said she had messages from other women in the same environment who had experienced similar behavior from Erika. This wasn't just directed at Micky McCoy. It wasn't an isolated incident. It wasn't right person, right time. The way it was told, it was a pattern, a series of behaviors that repeated over months with multiple witnesses and with multiple people who felt their boundaries were crossed in the same way. And that made the story much bigger. It wasn't just a conflict between two women. It became a question. How many people suffered? How many were silenced because they were afraid? How many were covered up because they thought they couldn't win? And when this evidence emerges, the whole story is no longer a personal drama, but an exposure of a system where poor relationships and position have inadvertently become a shield for disturbing behavior. Apparently, Erica had crossed the line more than once in her dealings with married men in the same environment and organization. The wife said it was a pattern, not a one-off moment. And when the wives tried to talk things out, trying to work things out privately, Erica was said to have a familiar response, playing the victim as if she were the one who needed protecting, and the organization behind was also said to have always supported her regardless of the real story. At this point, people began to notice another detail: the strange similarities between Erica's approach to men in the organization, but I do see some similarities of my husband and Judy and Vice President J.D. Vance. Video. Erika Kirk, widow of slain conservative leader Charlie Kirk, embracing U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance as at a public event. Well, this image has ignited widespread speculation online, and that's when a theory began to emerge. The reason the chief of staff was so protective of Erica was not just because of friendship. According to the online community, there could have been work relationships, projects, or mutual dependencies that motivated them to keep Erica in a state of content and silence. In other words, this story could be more complicated than just covering for a colleague. It could be about benefits, about image strategy, and about connections that outsiders don't see. And then comes the detail that stops everyone in their tracks. The wife says that the first time she tried to handle things privately, civilly, and professionally, Erica just laughed, really laughed, and said something like, "It's not that serious, you're making a big deal out of it." Imagine that feeling. You see your marital boundaries being violated. You try to talk honestly, but the other person reacts as if you're the one causing the trouble. You're the one spinning the drama. That's a disregard for your feelings. That's a disregard for your relationship. And according to the story, that's exactly what made the wife decide to step forward. And now everyone sees that this story is not just a small conflict. It is a series of behaviors, a system of protection, and a series of questions about the real motives behind it. And then there's the next layer of confusion added to this mess. Erica, it said, didn't stop at the borderline messages or the dismissive attitude. She also allegedly used her own platform and the connections she had from TPUSA to subtly spin the wife's image. Not directly attacking, not outright, but indirectly vague social media posts, calm but suggestive comments at events, intentional but pointed statements allegedly designed to undermine the wife's credibility without anyone being able to point a finger and say, "That's you." Erica allegedly also tried to spin friends, mutual acquaintance groups, and organizational connections to make the wife look like the troublemaker. A form of social manipulation that is difficult to grasp, but incredibly effective when the person doing it has enough influence and platform. And then the online reaction explodes. When the story broke, the internet, as usual, showed no restraint. One commenter wrote, "The fact that she had to make it all public just because no one else would handle it privately tells you everything about how these organizations protect their people. It's insane." Another said, Erica and her chief of staff thought that they could silence this woman, but she said no and presented evidence. I respect that. Another person added, "Everyone is shocked, but this is exactly how these organizations operate. They protect important faces regardless of right or wrong. Whoever tries to speak up gets pushed out. This wife is really brave." And the comment that made the whole network laugh. Erica really thought that being associated with TPUC made her untouchable. Then Mickey's wife released a series of screenshots, and now she is touchable. Playing stupid games gets stupid results. But the story is not just one-sided. Not everyone is on the wife's side. Some people ask, why make everything public? Why not handle it privately? Will putting it on social media make things worse? Some people even said putting it out in public is like adding fuel to the fire. It should have been handled privately. But the wife's supporters countered, she tried to handle it privately and the organization ignored it. When one door closed, she had no choice but to open the internet. And it was this division of sides that made the story explode even more. The more people argued, the more the story spread, and layer upon layer of behavior that was supposed to cover up, protect, and manipulate the image were pushed out into the light little by the wife. The biggest problem here is the wife tried to do everything discreetly in silence, in respect, in the hope that things could be resolved internally. But according to the story, she was blocked at every step, not listened to, not explained, and even had the story turned around, making her feel like she was the one causing the problem. When you are rejected at every private door, sometimes going public is the only option left. Not to make a fuss, but to force others to look at the thing they have been trying to avoid for a long time. And this is the part that many people don't pay attention to. There are things going on completely under the surface, not in the newspapers, not mentioned by major channels, but discussed in small corners of the online community. According to what has been compiled from various online sources, this is not the first time there have been whispers about inappropriate behavior in some TPUSA groups. No one has dared to speak out. No one has posted publicly. It has been just vague rumors, word-of-mouth stories, things everyone has heard, but no one has dared to confirm. And the reason is clear. People are afraid of losing their jobs, afraid of being sidelined, afraid of offending influential figures, afraid of career consequences. Then the wife asked a question that sent shivers down everyone's spine. What if the person being treated like that was your father, your brother, or your sister? And then people who used to work at TPUSA began to speak up, not by their real names, not through the press, but anonymously and almost simultaneously. Several former staff members said they had seen similar patterns of behavior and seen them covered up or ignored. They said that in this organization, sometimes connections matter more than standards, and that people were protected not because they were right, but because they belonged to the right group. They also said that tensions had been simmering for months about how sensitive situations were handled internally, but no one dared to question them. Everyone kept quiet because they didn't want to lose their relationships with those in power in the movement. And then people started to look more closely. Some pointed out that the chief of staff had a history of making controversial decisions, especially in personnel matters. Some argued that this wasn't the first time the chief of staff had been accused of protecting an individual who shouldn't have been protected. And that makes people wonder, is this simply defending a colleague or has it become a pattern? And then things get more interesting. Some online users have suggested that there are financial or business connections between Erica and some TPUSA projects. If that's true, then protecting Erica is not just personal. It's also about the public good, influences larger plans, and may even affect the image of the organization. That explains why some believe many people have an incentive to keep her happy, keep her quiet, and prevent things from becoming a public affair. We're not just talking about private messages or border-crossing moments anymore. According to the online community, there are larger connections behind it. Things that, if compromised, could cause significant damage to many people. This could include speaking opportunities Erica has been offered through connections within the movement, internal collaborative projects, media, and political relationships, and possibly even long-term work arrangements that have been planned. If this story gets too big, all of those opportunities could be disrupted. And that's why many believe some individuals have an incentive to keep things as quiet as possible. So what happens next? We're right in the middle of the storm. This story is still evolving by the hour. To date, Erika Kirk has yet to make a public statement in response to the growing number of allegations. She has been completely silent, no posts, no explanations, no vague responses, and this has the internet asking, if someone is wrongly accused, they usually speak up immediately. So why the silence this time? That silence is getting louder. TPUSA is also silent. The organization Erica is affiliated with has also not made any official statement about the chief of staff's alleged involvement in the cover-up of the misconduct. No denials, no commitment to investigate, not even a line confirming that the matter is being looked into. And people are watching closely to see whether they will speak up or whether they will try to let it go and hope the story fades away over time. But the internet doesn't work that way. Micky McCoy speaks up in support of his wife. And the story gets pushed further. Micky McCoy, the insider, didn't shy away or stay silent. He stepped forward, confirmed that he was on his wife's side, shared her story, and made it clear that he believed her completely. While many husbands would hesitate to take the plunge, Micky took the initiative to defend his wife. And that earned him a lot of respect online because, as one viewer commented, "This is what you do when your spouse is being lampooned and disrespected." A small but powerful detail, he also shared a touching memory. The first time he met Charlie Kirk, he was the one driving Charlie and his then-girlfriend Erica to the airport after a talk at his father's church. The whole ride, Charlie talked about Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, American history, and finally told Micky, "Don't go to college, come work for me." This story is not only a retrospective, but also shows how close Micky was to the movement so that viewers understood that he was not an outsider jumping in to cause trouble. He was involved, he was supportive, he was a companion, and now he chose to stand with his wife. Conservative media began to get involved, but very cautiously. A few conservative outlets began to mention the incident, but many of them hesitate because this story involves influential figures, major political connections, organizations with significant media power. No one wants to be the first to touch a topic that could create a backlash from the entire system. But the internet is fearless. Social media does not hesitate, does not shy away from collision. They demand accountability, transparency, explanation. Some even say if this is ignored, people have the right to question the integrity of the entire organization. This story has now transcended the personal and become a reminder that where there is power, there is always a dark side, and people online are saying it bluntly. If these allegations are indeed true, then Erica Kirk and her chief of staff can't just fix it internally or wait it out. They need to face real consequences, not beat around the bush, not be protected by acquaintances, not be exempted from any responsibility by position. That's the bare minimum the community is calling for. The internet is ablaze with comments. And let me show you what the current climate is like because the comment section is now hotter than the actual content. One person wrote, "This is exactly why women are afraid to speak up. She tried to deal with it privately and was pushed back. Now she's come out with evidence and people are still trying to make her out to be the bad guy. What's the right way to say it?" Another was more blunt. Erika Kirk thought she was immune because she had TPUSA backing. But now things have changed. You can't treat someone as you please just because you have connections. Then there was the comment that made everyone nod their heads. The chief of staff should be held accountable if this is true. Their job is to maintain professionalism, not to help someone cover up shady behavior. But this isn't just about one person. And that's what made me nod my head over and over again, because the story goes beyond Erika Kirk. It touches on a larger systemic cultural power issue. An organization can protect problematic behavior if it benefits the person. Money, connections, power. That's not just wrong. It's a form of degradation, a darkness that makes outsiders feel uneasy. And now the question returns to the audience. What do you think of this whole story? Do you believe Micky McCoy's wife did the right thing by bringing all the evidence to light? Or do you think there are other dark corners that we haven't heard about? Who do you think should be held accountable? And what do you think will happen next? Leave your thoughts in the comments below because this video is just the tip of the iceberg. Music arts.